Now, solving with these is nothing. It's time for a bigger challenge now. This. The 4x4x4 cube. Now the 4x4x4 cube has much more challenges to it than a regular 3x3 cube. So now it's time to learn how to solve this, because this is much harder than this. So let's look at some of the types of things that's going to make this a big challenge. Now just before we start, I highly recommend that you already know how to solve a 3x3, because the way I'm going to be teaching you how to solve a 4x4 involves you solving it like you would solve a 3x3. So if you don't know how to solve a 3x3, I suggest you check out my 3x3 Rubik's Cube video to find out how to solve that. If you do know how to solve a 3x3 already, then forget that. You're ready to move on to this. One of the things that's going to make solving a 4x4 a big challenge is that there's no center piece on the 4x4 Rubik's Cube. There is 4 center pieces, but not one of them is right in the middle of the cube. Now, because of this, no piece will tell us what each side's supposed to be. So when you mess this up, you won't have a piece that'll tell you what each side is. You're going to have to work that out by yourself. So the way we're going to work that out is we're actually going to start by solving the center pieces by putting these 4 center pieces together to make this square and act as though it was the centerpiece on a 3x3, which can't change. Now, another thing we're going to have to worry about is that the 4x4 has these inside layers. These don't appear on the 3x3 because that has the centerpiece in it. So we don't really need to move it, because if we move the other pieces around it, we can solve it just fine that way. But since there's no centerpiece on the 4x4 cube, we do need to worry about moving these inside layers, because there's no way we can solve it without moving them. If you saw my video on how to solve a 3x3 Rubik's Cube, you would have noticed that when I was doing the moves, they actually appeared on the screen while I was doing them. Now, you would have noticed that whenever I moved a side clockwise, the first letter of the name of the side that I was moving appeared on the screen to represent that side. But when I moved it counterclockwise, the opposite direction, the letter appeared with a little I next to it. Like the 3x3, the 4x4 does use something like that, but it is a bit different, and I have to teach you that before we get started on solving it, because it's a little bit more complicated than it is on a 3x3. On the 4x4, you're not going to use the little I's. Instead, whenever we move a side counterclockwise, you have to use a little apostrophe after the side that you're going to move, because on the 4x4, lowercase letters represent something different. What do they represent? The inner layers. But don't get freaked out because now you're going to need to know more letters, because you don't. It's very easy. All you have to do is take the letter of the outer layer and then make it a small letter. So, for an example, this side is the up side, and that is represented by a big U. So this inside layer that's right next to the up side is known as inner up, and it's represented by a little u. Similar, this is the right side. This is the inner right side. This is represented by a big R, and this is represented by a little r. This is the left side. It's represented by a big L. This is the inner left side, and it's represented by a little l. it works the same for all the sides. So as long as you know what each side is, you should be able to figure out what the letter that represents these inside layers is going to be. On the 3x3x3 Rubik's Cube, whenever we had to move the same side twice, we just wrote it down twice. You're going to have to do that a lot on the 4x4 Rubik's Cube. But a lot of the move combinations that you're going to have to know for this are kind of long, and if we were to just write the same letter twice, it would make them even more longer. So there's a little shortcut you can use when solving the 4x4 to make your move combinations shorter. All you have to do is stick a 2 in front of the side that you're going to use. So, for example, 2 front would look like that. Now, you will never have anything inverted when you do it twice, and let me show you why. If I do 2 front inverted, it gets me here. Now, I'm going to do that backwards, and then I'm going to just do 2 front now, and it gets us the same thing. So whenever you do something twice, you just end up in the same place no matter what direction you go. So if I was to just say 2 front inverted, it really wouldn't make any difference than just saying 2 front. So you don't have to ever worry about anything going counterclockwise when you're going with 2 moves. You can do it whatever direction you want. Alright, there's one more thing you should know about. Sometimes we're actually going to have to move 2 layers at once. Now when you do this, to represent it, we put a star after the side we're going to move. This would be a right star. You move both the outer right and the inner right. The way we know what direction to go is the same as it would be otherwise. So this, for example, would be an up star inverted. You still would use the apostrophe that we used when normally moving a side backwards, like that. But we need to remember to move 2 at once. You're going to be doing that quite a bit on the 4x4 cube, so it's a good move to get comfortable with. You're quite often going to have to do that twice. So this, for example, would be a 2 right star. So don't worry about these. It's not that complicated. It's the same as always, but you got to remember to always move 2 whenever there's a star.